Well, looking on my other screen and it's funny, it shows on the ACAD VR channel that there's a live stream going on, but there's no place to click it. So here's what I'm going to do. I think I mentioned the other day that I was going to um, do a little bit experimenting and figure out why I couldn't resize these images inside of their frames. It was driving me a little crazy, and I know you can do it. And it was just one of those things that I've done it before, and my brain just wasn't functioning at all. So it's really easy. Let's work within this group right here. So I've got a group of 3 images, and I will zoom into those. And so if you control click one of those, it will give you that image, except that it's the frame. And if you keep control clicking, that's as far down as you can dive. Once I've got that actual image frame, for lack of a better term, I don't know if that's what Adobe calls it, a frame or not. I'm used to InDesign. I'm used to working with frames, so that's what I call it. But once I'm there, if I double click that, now you can tell it's obvious I've got the actual image, and then I can resize and reposition, recrop, reframe, whatever, and then click off, and there we go. I've got a new crop of that. Now, the other way you can do it is just double click on that image until you get to the actual picture. So first double click takes me to this group. Notice I've got this picture and this recipe name all grouped in the same, they've got the same set of handlebars there. All right. So that was one double click. If I double click again, now I've got the frame for the image. Double click a third time, and now I've got the image itself, and I can resize that. So I told you guys I was going to figure that out, and I did. um, and so hopefully that is helpful. Let's see here. What else? While I'm waiting, let me refresh over here and see if we can go live yet. Hey, there it is. All right, there it is. So it's up. I know it's there, and then I'll give it a few minutes and see if anybody joins us. And I'm just realizing I don't think you guys are seeing my screen, so I'm going to go back and do that one more time. Everything that I just talked about. So everything that I just said there, it was essentially this. You can control click or command click an image to get the actual image and its frame, and then double click, and then you get the picture. Or you can double click once and just keep double clicking until you get the picture. There we go. I'm going to resize that again a little bit, do a little reframing, recropping, and there we go. All right, let's see what else. See what else I can work on. Let's see here. If you want to get a little bit more advanced with some of, well, it shows 2 in there now. Whoever that is, give me comments. I know who I'm talking to. If you want to get a little bit more advanced on some of your prototyping, um, let's do this. Let's come over here to these stars. So, like most things, social media, you'll have a set of stars and you can rate and that kind of thing. Now, I don't have these set where I can give, like half stars. I can only do individual. So if I double click on one of those to get down into it, and I'm in design mode here. All right. Notice over on the right hand side, I've got a component. I don't know if you can, hopefully you can see that, the component. And this is my default state. So my default state for this star is this kind of charcoal color. Now, if I switch to the tap state, when I tap on that star, it is supposed to become yellow. if I hover over it, so if this were a web page and I could hover my mouse over it rather than a mobile app, um, my hover state is also yellow. All right. So I want to try this out. So I'm going to turn it back to default. And then I'm going to go play. And if you watch, it should, when I hover, when I hover over a star, it changes color. And here is my problem right now. And this is another one I have to experiment with. Now I'm starting to kind of dive down into some way more advanced design work in XD. So I haven't quite figured this part out, but if I click, it doesn't make that a permanent state change. So I'm not quite sure within XD if you even can do that. And if you can, though, I'm not quite sure how to make that happen. So I'm still trying to work that out. But you can see I do have a hover state, which is kind of cool. All right. And I don't know what else to cover unless I get a question. So I'm gonna give it a couple minutes here and see if I get a question. See if we get anybody else joining us, and then if not, I'm gonna call it quits. So, because I don't know quite what else to cover. I think maybe I'll go in and give us a. Why don't we do a? I don't know. 3-minute countdown. All right, there we go. 3 minutes. Hey, Emily, how are you? All right, that's uh, um really the trick to that to placing is just getting organized, just getting set up. So I'm going to switch back to my screen. All right. And if I go over to where I've got all of my assets saved, so I have all of I'm going to have to dive down, so bear with me just a second. Onto my hard drive, into that folder, 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 and then here we go, cooking app. So, there we go. So this essentially is my project. So if you know on your hard drive, if you're working organized like we try to do at school, and you've got all of the files, all of the photos and everything that you're going to need for your project organized into a folder somewhere, just open that folder on your desktop. Okay. And then if you need to, I don't know if you're working on Windows. If you're working on Windows, you could snap your XD interface to the left and then snap your folder to your right, or whatever the case may be. You just need to get to where you can see your XD interface and project and your folder full of images at the same time. All right. And since you're here, Hang on, I'm going to go kill our countdown. There we go. Okay, now back to our folder. All right, so I'm going to open this, and let's just say I wanted to, let's find something here that would make sense. What is this? Some sort of background. Let's take any image because it doesn't really matter. Let's go with the quinoa salad. All right, and it's as easy as this. And I know because in InDesign we've been file place, file place, file place. Even in Photoshop with the year ones, when I had year ones, we were getting in the habit of file place and file place linked. In Illustrator, it's file place. In XD, it's just drag and drop. So it's a different way. So here we go. Let's take the quinoa salad. You ready? Click, drag, drop, and then there it is. All right. Now, what I would recommend though, instead of just dragging and dropping images kind of all over the place, you can do that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But instead, let's see. I'm going to save this and I'm going to open. I've got a blank file that I just call experimentation. So I can just kind of work things out. All right. So in this particular case, let's say I want my images on this page to be in, I want them to be in, let's say, rectangles that span the entire document. And I don't want them to have a border. I'm going to make the fill a bright color so I can see it. Just so if it's white, it might disappear, right? And I don't have to go beyond the edge in XD. When we're designing for print and InDesign we do, but in XD you don't need to. All right. So now I've got my rectangle, and that's how I would design. I would just start dropping shapes where I want photos to be later. All right. Drop shapes, drop placeholder text, start making decisions about color and fonts, and then you can come back and start dropping in your pictures. So I've got a rectangle here, and so we'll say I'm at the point I want to start dropping in pictures. Go find that quinoa salad with that rectangle selected, drop it, and there it is. It's inside of that. The file type does matter. For XD, since this is you're designing for really apps, and or you could design websites. You could do on-screen presentations. Like if you had a presentation for a class, you could do a cool interactive presentation. But since everything we're doing is meant for a screen of some kind, I would stick with either JPEGs or PNGs. All right, so let's head over here and, all right, JPEG or PNG is best. All right. There's one other one. This is not a brand new file type, but it's newer than most that we've worked with. It's called an SVG. It's a scalable vector graphic, SVG for short. And those are for, you create objects and artwork in Illustrator. Obviously, Illustrator is vector, and you didn't used to be able to add vector graphics directly into web design applications or something like XD in the past, but the SVG file format allows those objects to stay vector, but also be usable in web design applications and things like that. So I would stick with JPEG or PNG, but then know that SVG is you can use as well. All right. And then if you didn't catch at the beginning when I was working, once you've got your picture in this frame, in this shape, if you want to change how big or small it is inside of that frame, change how it's cropped. If you double click, that will put you directly into contact with the image again. Okay, so I could change the way this is cropped and that kind of thing. All right. You also change, if you click it once, you're changing the size of the shape. Since we work in InDesign, we're familiar with frames and the way frames and objects or frames and pictures inside the frames kind of can be resized and moved independently of one another. So the way that works, again, I'll just recap. Click it once, and that's the frame. All right. Now, once you get to the frame is the size of the image, it'll start scaling the image as well. All right. After that, double click lets you change the size of the image inside of that frame. So you can change, zoom it in, zoom it out, change how it's cropped, all of that good stuff. All right. Cool. How are you doing other than that, other than the placing of images? Good. All right. Awesome. Had a handful of people turn them in. They're not, um, they're looking pretty good. I would say if you want an example of an actual students to look at, other than mine here on screen, Sydney Smith turned hers in and it was pretty good. She met all the, you can always tweak a design, even mine. I look at it, and I'm like, oh shoot, I should change this, I should change that. So you can always change something, and there's some stuff on hers that could be tweaked, but she got 10 out of 10. She hit um, all of the items on the rubric. So I don't know if you know Sydney outside of class very well, but if you wanted to see another one, you could reach out to her and have her email you the link to hers. I think I'll give it maybe that 3-minute countdown again and see if anybody else joins us. And then other than that, and obviously if you got more questions, keep asking. But outside of that, then after that 3 minutes, I think we'll call it a day. So let's see here. Let's go do our. All right, you too. I think. Let's see here. All right. I think we'll call it a day.